I was thinking maybe it'd be a good idea just to do a quick introduction of yourself, give them an idea who you are.
Oh, okay. All right. That'll work. So my name is Rick Malkin. I am the product manager for the Rainbird Corporation. I work in the commercial division for sensor control products. I deal with IQ and all of the communications with IQ, both IQ3, IQ4, and even some of the older central control systems that we have, such as SiteControl and Maxicom.
Perfect. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to go through this Academy project. So I'll take this along with me.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen here and show you. First, we'll start off. We got some mapping stuff here, but let's go over here and take a look at dry run. So I'm going to select a LXME controller. It's fairly simple setup, but the initial screen obviously shows you the manual operations, but let's take a look at dry run. So dry run allows you to do a forecast of what irrigation is expected over a particular time period. Now I'm going to select a 1 week time period. You can select all the way up to 30 days, depending on how many days you want to see, so that you can select it from there. You can use a calendar, and you will notice there's actually a time listed for both start and end. We default to an irrigation day of 12 noon around to 11:59 a.m. and that's our default irrigation day. You can change the times here though if you'd like to see a different time period, so it's very flexible from that standpoint. So I'm going to go ahead and select 1 week. It has that date starting in there, and we also have 3 different views of the same data. I'm going to start with the chart view. You'll see that it's selected here. We could also select either schedule or list, which I'll show you in just a minute, and then I'll click on run. So what it does is it goes into the system and it pulls all the data and shows you kind of what's happening. Now this looks a little bit busy here. Now what you're seeing is I've got a week's worth of data. You can see some of the green bars. That shows me when irrigation is actually going to occur. And if I put my pointer on there, it'll show me at the bottom which program that is, which station it is, and what the flow is for that particular station. So I can see a fair amount of detail based on moving my pointer around. Now I've also got some vertical lines here, quite a few of them, that show me when my log retrievals are set. So this is that's why this particular one looks a little busy. To make this a little more palatable, if I hold down my mouse button and drag it across a smaller area, I can now pull this out and see a lot more detail. And this is where it's really powerful with dry run. So now I can do the same thing. I put my pointer on here and I can see different programs, different stations, the flow for each of the different stations. If I want to zoom in even further, I can simply drag across another smaller area and I can actually see in much greater detail, or I can reset it all the way back to my original setting. So that's the information, or what you see when you see a chart mode. Now, so let's take a look at the schedule view of this. Now, the schedule view is the same data. It's all the same information, same time period, all that. But we're put it in a format that's going to show you by different types of irrigation. In this case, I've got some pots and planters. I've got point source drip. I've got some turf grass. It will show me when my retrieve logs is going to occur. And then it shows you a scheduled start, and then it's got a projected start and projected end. So I can actually look at these projected end times on here, and I can see when I should expect my end period to be, or end time to be done. When I'm going to start, when I'm going to complete, and it starts off being in chronological order. So my first one's going to start at 4, then one at 5, and it shows me each of those and goes all the way through the list day by day. Now, I can also filter and sort these. So let's say I decide, I really would like to see these grouped based on the different names of those programs. So there's my potter plant ones all now grouped, my shrub ones grouped, my trees grouped, my turf grass grouped. And so I can see that with the start and completion times each day as well. So that's a great feature to be able to sort through those. I can also filter that. Let's say I want to do turf grass. and I'll type turf grass in, and it'll filter and just show me turf grass. So that's a very powerful feature in using this tool with Dry Run to be able to filter through and see that. Now those are available on all the way through IQ4. So it's a great feature to not only for my Dry Run, but I can use it on controllers and programs and sites and all kinds of things. I can filter and sort from that standpoint. So that's really the main part of the Dry Run program. Also, you'll see a view PDF button up here, and that allows me to actually develop a PDF file, and I can use that to email to other people. I can use it to be my, put it into a repository so I store my data. So that allows me to do that as well. So I have a real good history of what goes on with Dry Run. So
what about the total flow?
Total flow, that occurs up here in the upper right-hand corner, right underneath this view PDF. And this total flow, and what it's based on is the irrigation time that I start with. And so it shows me that's the flow over this 1 week period. In this particular case, I've got about 1,680 gallons. If I decide, you know, I really would just like to only see the flow for a particular day, I go up here and choose a day, rerun Dry Run, and now I'll see a total flow for a particular day. So I can actually break that out and do that.
So can you show us if we want to shut the system down or have it off, let's say July 4th?
Okay, that's what we call our days off feature. So right now you'll see here, if I go to my edit my controller settings, you'll see days off, and I'll click on days off. And right now I don't have any days off. So I can click on here, and let's say I decide I want to turn off 4th of July. So that was a great suggestion there. So 4th of July comes up, and actually it's on a Monday. I actually want to turn off both the 3rd and the 4th to make sure it's not. So I'll hit the 3rd. I'll click on this next one again and go over and select July 4th. And so I now have both the 3rd and the 4th will now be days off, and no irrigation will occur on those days. Now remember, our irrigation day starts at 12 noon. It runs till 11:59 the next morning. So that's why a lot of times I may need to actually do 2 days in order to make sure I've covered the period that I want to with that.
So the other, the weather data that we're using, it's all off zip code, correct?
The weather data is based off a zip code. That is correct. So if I go to my controller settings, I go to advanced, and I go down to the bottom here. I've now set up a weather source, and I've got it named at this point. So a city here in Arizona. If I also go to my weather setup, I can see all of the different weather setups I have literally around the world. I can add a new one, and I'll give it a name. We'll call this the test weather source. The type, I will use global weather. And this is one where I can use a zip code. So Mark, what's a good zip code for you there?
Why don't we put 95688?
So we'll use 95688, and it's now going to give me a number of them that are basically in that same area. So which one of these, seeing this, looks like good for you?
It would be Vacaville.
Vacaville's good. Okay, so we're going to select Vacaville, and that's going to be our weather source. Now Pacific time zone, it shows that. I can save this, and now I have this test weather source available to me. And then once I go to my controller, again, it was done by zip code. Now I go to my controller, and then I can select that as my particular weather source, and that will allow me to use it from there. So I'm going to go ahead and select a LXME2 controller. I'll hit edit here. We'll hit the advanced settings, and then I can set that up as my test weather source that I just set up, and that's now going to be my setup from there. Now also I was able to get the Dry Run going here. So I'm back to, I'm going to select a week, and I do have so Vacaville showing some forecast here, but I set up a rain delay based on the fact that we're supposed to get some rain here. So yep. I've set up a week, got my chart, and I've go ahead and click on run, and then we'll pull up another dry run scenario here. I'm going to select the 1 week, and we'll hit run. It'll go through, gather all the data, and then you'll see here there's a kind of hashed area that doesn't have any irrigation on it, and that's the rain delay area. So that's another key part of dry run that may help you with visually seeing what's going on as far as your programming goes.
Great. And maybe the last question would be like, how does IQ Cloud crunch the numbers to be reacting to weather?
Okay, so what we use is a feature called Simple ET, and there's a couple ways of setting this up here. I then go to my program page, and I'm going to select a particular program and edit it. And I can select an ET adjustment here, and you'll see that I've selected Simple ET. And what it's going to do is it's going to take the weather information that I get from my weather source and calculate a daily ET from that standpoint. It then also looks at and I'm going to select this particular program. You'll notice I've got a couple stations here, and I've got a base runtime. Now, this base runtime is to be programmed to the hottest time of the year. And so that becomes also the base, or the hottest time is gathered from the weather source connected to this base runtime. So if my ET is lower, as it would be this time of year when it's winter, we got some rain and all that, it'll then lower this runtime to a forecasted one. So you notice I got 1 hour and 10 minutes is my base runtime, but my ET is much lower. So if I hover my mouse over this, it shows my base runtime, but it shows Simple ET says I only need to water 22% of that base runtime because I have such weather conditions that account for that, and it does that, so it drops it down to a little over 15 minutes.